Hi, I'm Ian, and this is a technical introduction to field recording. This episode is going to talk about mid-side recording, how it works, and how to use it for field recording. One stereo recording technique you'll hear about a lot is mid-side, or MS. Mid-side is a little more complicated than some of the other stereo techniques, as it needs you to do some post-processing to get the stereo signal. Because of this, people often see it as some kind of arcane magic for experts only. But it's really not that complicated. The post-processing is really simple to do by hand, and in fact a lot of audio editors offer a preset effect for it anyway. In fact, some audio recorders can do the decoding themselves. On the other hand, mid-side has some distinct advantages. It creates a nice stereo image with a good clear image of the central subject, and it's very flexible in terms of how it can be handled in post-production. So don't be put off, mid-side is a great way to record stereo. Let me try to explain just how it works. The way it works is that you use two mics mounted coincident, in other words with the diaphragms aligned one above the other. But unlike the other techniques, you use two different mics. The mid mic is a conventional directional mic, usually a cardioid, facing forward so that it captures both sides and the centre. The side mic is a figure-8 microphone. This has a single diaphragm, but it's aligned fore and aft, in other words at right angles to the cardioid mic's diaphragm. This is open to both sides and it captures sounds from both sides, mixed together onto its one output signal. It's important to realise that a figure-8 mic is not a stereo mic. It can't possibly give you a stereo signal by itself. It responds to sound from the two sides with opposite polarities, but that doesn't really help as the signals are still basically identical. The only difference is in what phase of the air pressure cycle, positive or negative, they respond to. So there's no way to tell them apart. Unless, that is, you have a reference to tell you the phase of the original sound. And that's where the mid mic comes in. So the combination of the two mics, mid and side, lets you decode the signal in post to get to stereo. And the good news is that this decoding is really simple. You don't have to worry about phases and all that stuff. It's just simple arithmetic. So why bother with all of this? Well, mid-side is a technique that creates a really nice stereo sound field, but in particular it has a nice accurate centre. Both XY and near coincident techniques can suffer from not actually having a mic pointed at your subject. This can be okay for recording a general ambience, but it can be an issue if you're trying to record a central main source plus ambience. Mid-side fixes this. In fact, with mid-side, you can just dump the side signal to get a mono recording of your subject. Or you can keep it to get a recording which highlights your subject while adding in a stereo ambience. More than that, you can choose in post how much of the side signal to mix in, meaning that you can choose the amount of stereo-ness in your recording after you've made the recording. Another handy feature is that mid-side rigs tend to be compact and can fit inside a blimp, though you'll probably need a slightly wider blimp than standard. The downside, of course, is that the signal needs to be decoded, or as it's sometimes called matrixed, to get to a real stereo signal. Some recorders can do this for you, in which case the signal they record will just be stereo. Some mid-side microphones, though not all, can do it as well. But it's really not that hard to do it yourself in post, and this gives you the option of deciding how much stereo effect you want. In terms of equipment, any recorder which can record stereo will be fine. This will just record the raw mid and side signals, which you will then decode in post. A recorder which can decode mid-side to record just a plain stereo signal could be useful if you want to do it that way. But a recorder that can decode mid-side for your headphones while still recording the raw mid and side signals can be really useful. That way you get to monitor in stereo but do the real mid-side decoding in post. For microphones, the mid mic is normally just a regular cardioid mic, though you could try a hypercardioid or short shotgun for a more selective centre. The side mic is a little trickier. It needs to be a figure-8 mic, but it needs to be completely symmetrical. A lot of the figure-8 mics designed for studio use are not symmetrical. The side you speak into is more open than the other side. For mid-side recording, we need a completely symmetrical mic, and that limits your choice quite a bit. The classic mic for this is the Sennheiser MKH30. If you fancy getting one of these, sit down before you check the price. There are cheaper options available if you dig a bit, but be careful to do some research and find out how noisy they are. You might find yourself doing mid-side recording in quiet environments. There are also combined mid-side mics on the market. This is basically two capsules of cardioid and a figure 8 inside a single microphone housing. This can make setup very easy, and some of these mics will decode directly to stereo. You need to be careful about how the mics are connected to the recorder. If the recorder is doing the decoding, then it will need the mics to be connected in a particular way. And if you're doing the decoding yourself or using a preset, then you'll need to know how the connections are set up. So although in principle you can connect the mics any way you like, in practice life's going to be much easier if you follow the standard convention. And that is that you connect the mid mic to channel 1 or left, and the side mic, the figure 8, to channel 2 or right. And the positive side of the side microphone should be facing to the left. Your microphone's manual should tell you which is the positive side, and you might want to put a label on there to remind yourself. But if it's not too clear, don't worry, as it can easily be flipped in post. With mid-side, it's even more vital than usual to record an audio annotation. Mid-side sounds a lot like stereo, but all mixed up, so if you don't know that it's mid-side, you might spend forever trying to puzzle it out. So in addition to your usual audio note with the date and place and so on, be sure to record that it's mid-side and how it's connected. The recording setup is mid-side with the MKH8040 mid on 1, MKH30 side on 2, positive left. A really good thing to do for any stereo recording, but particularly mid-side, is to walk around the mics and record the left, front and right positions. This is incredibly useful to check out your stereo decoding later on. This is the left, front left, front right, and right. Make sure you get your left and right the right way round, but even if you don't care too much about left versus right, this annotation is still really useful to let you know that your decoding is correct. After that, just record as normal. When you're monitoring, bear in mind that the directions are all mixed up, unless your recorder lets you decode mid-side to the headphones while you record. If you record with the mic or recorder doing mid-side decoding for you, then your recorded file will just be stereo. There's nothing else to do. But if you record the mid and side channels directly with no decoding, then what do you need to do to make that recording into real stereo? Well, first, your recorder will typically create a file marked as stereo. As far as the recorder knows, it has two mics plugged in and they're left and right. So it's up to you to remember that the left channel is actually your mid and the right channel is actually your side, if that's how you connected your mics. Your audio annotation should remind you of all this. The recording setup is mid-side with the MKH8040 mid on 1, MKH30 side on 2, positive left. So now you need to decode the file to real stereo. There are two basic ways to do this, so let's start with the hard way. First, split your stereo file into two mono tracks. Your audio editor should have a feature for this. Now, to help you out, rename the tracks. Call the left track mid and the right track side left. Now copy the side left track and invert the copy. Again, your editor should have a feature to let you invert a track. Call the inverted copy side right. Now use the pan controls in your audio tracks to pan the mid track to the center, the side left track all the way left, and the side right track all the way to the right. Now mix down your recording to stereo, and that should be it. Use your audio annotation to check that you got it right. This is the left, front left, front, front right, and right. If you want to adjust the stereo mix, simply adjust the levels of the 3 tracks. Boosting the side tracks will make more of a stereo effect, and cutting the side tracks while boosting the mid will make the result less stereo-y. This is the left, front left, front, front right, and right. Okay, so what about the easy way? Well, it really is pretty easy. Simply find your audio editor's preset for mid-side decoding and apply it to the track, and that's about it. For example, in Audition, I would use amplitude and compression, channel mixer, and apply it to the stereo, but actually mid-side track from the recorder. Under preset, I pick mid-side to stereo, and that's basically it. This is the left, front left, front, front right, and right. Your editor's preset may well let you change the balance of mid and side, which is how you change the stereo-ness of your recording. In Audition, the L tab lets you set how much of the input L, which is actually mid, and R, which is actually side tracks, go to the output L, which is actually left track. Likewise, the R tab sets the levels for the output right track. Note that the side track is inverted for the R output. Remember to change both the L and R tabs, and probably you want to set them to something symmetrical. This is the left, front left, front, front right, and right. If you decide that you actually just want mono, this is even easier. Once again, split your stereo file into 2 mono tracks, and now just delete or mute the right track, which is actually your side signal, and you're left with the mid, and that's it. This is the left, front left, front, front right, and right. That's all you need to know to understand mid-side, so you can stop here. But if you'd like to understand a little bit more about how and why the decoding process works, we can get into the maths a bit. But don't worry, when I say maths, I mean adding and subtracting. Let's start with the mid signal. If you think about how a cardioid mic works, it basically records the left plus the centre plus the right. The left and right aren't so strong at the sides, but the front left and front right are pretty close to what the centre records. Now, a figure-8 mic doesn't record any centre because sounds from the front hit both sides of the diaphragm at the same time and cancel each other out. So it records the left and the right. But because the positive side of the mic faces left, sounds from that direction have normal polarity, the same as a cardioid would get, and sounds from the right have reversed polarity. So a figure-8 records plus the left and minus the right. So what happens when we combine them? Well, the simplest possible way to do this is to just add them. If we do that, we get the cardioid, left, centre and right, plus the figure-8, which is plus left and minus right. Now we have plus right and minus right in there, which cancel out. And there are 2 plus lefts, which is just 2 times left. So what we end up with is double the left plus the centre. Now let's say we make another copy of the figure-8 signal, but invert it. This would be minus the left and plus the right. If we add that to the mid signal, we get the cardioid, left, centre and right, plus the inverted figure-8, which is minus left and plus right. Now we have a plus left and minus left in there, which cancel out. And there are 2 plus rights, which just adds up to 2 times right. So what we end up with is centre plus double the right. If we combine both these results into a stereo track, what we get is 2 times left, 2 times centre and 2 times right, with all of the left coming from the left speaker, all of the right coming from the right speaker, and the centre divided equally between the 2 speakers. In other words, stereo. Mid-side is a great technique for recording stereo, and it has many advantages. It's a compact rig that fits in a blimp, maybe a wide blimp, so windshielding is relatively easy. And above all, it captures a really nice stereo sound field. If you're recording something which has a main source of sound in the centre and you also want the ambience around it, mid-side can be a great choice, and it's perfectly monocompatible. Getting an appropriate figure 8 mic can be a sticky point, admittedly, but if you can get past that, don't be put off by the post-processing, which is actually really easy. In any case, I hope I've helped you to understand what mid-side is all about, at least.